Hey, everybody. I'm Chris Metzler, one of the programmers here at the Green Film Festival of San Francisco. You just had a chance to see the really wonderful film, Running for the Mountains, and we have some of the filmmaking team here. Welcome, everybody. Can you introduce yourselves?
Hi there. I'm Julie Eisenberg, director, producer of Running for the Mountains.
And hi, I'm Babette Hogan. I also am the director and producer of Running for the Mountains.
My name is Paul Corbett Brown. I'm part of the film in various ways.
Very cool. Thank you again for being all here as part of the festival. It's such a great story to kind of share, but also just love all the kind of the subtext of the issues there, and great conversation to have during these times. Julie and Babette, what was the kind of inspiration to decide to go down this rabbit hole and make this documentary?
Well, I think both Julie and I are pretty wonky people, politically wonky people. And when we wanted to get back into our professional kind of work, we were looking first at telling a story about politics because we were emphatically interested. What brought us down that rabbit hole? Much bigger story. I don't think we never expected to end up in West Virginia, but it encapsulated so much of what we saw as being difficult about the politics of the day. Anybody else can jump in.
We were looking for a story about politics and the environment, and seeing, and we ended up meeting someone who was running for office on an environmental platform, who said, if you guys really want a story about the environment and politics, please come to West Virginia, because they're blowing up the mountains here for coal. And that's what brought us to come all the way from California to West Virginia. And he was not exaggerating. And the story, as we dove deeper into it, it just got wilder.
And along the way, we met Paul Corbett Brown.
Right.
And Paul, how did you feel about when Julie and Babette had kind of asked about you kind of to be involved in the film? Was there any trepidation, or were you excited to kind of share the story? Or
I was very excited about it because, we've known historically that a lot of social justice challenges that we faced in this country they're very rarely solved from within. We always have needed help from outside. And so for folks to come and show an interest in West Virginia and telling the stories here was very empowering for us to know that there were people who could tell our stories and help us get the word out.
And as you kind of started to dig in, where did you know the kind of, for lack of a better word, like narrative arc that you wanted to follow, or what, or was it kind of one of those things is like, let's capture the story emotion and we'll kind of figure it out as we go along? What was the kind of the storytelling process?
I think we had a real hope and desire to tell a very positive, empowering story about people running, activists running as electoral activists. And the fact that it zoomed in on West Virginia, it became very serious. We thought we were going to make a kind of jovial romp of a story, or we were aiming for that. But what was going on in West Virginia was clearly more critical. It was more like a child that had been abandoned, or and you just can't turn away from that. You can't make light of that.
And over the course of the film, was there anything that surprised you three that you didn't kind of expect, or that, just kind of took you by, made you take notice?
Well, we filmed over the course of basically 15 years. And so coming from where Babette and I were living, and where she's lived her whole life from Northern California, we went into West Virginia, and it was very different culturally, very different in terms of the way the culture looks at the importance of the environment. Although obviously there are people there like Paul and other people who are very keyed into it, but the overall societal message is we have to sacrifice everything for coal, for gas, for jobs. So in that respect, we thought, wow, this is so different. But as the time went on, different themes that we saw in West Virginia started to seep out and become projected out. And in fact, the politicians from West Virginia really started to impact a national story.
And Paul, on this journey, when you kind of started it, did you have an idea of where it was headed, or was it just more of like your passion just kept on pushing you along?
I think it's a little bit of both. There was always the hope that we could tell the story of what was happening here in West Virginia as a cautionary tale for what was happening in the larger sense of the country and the world, really. And at the same time, there was a lot of concern for where we were right here in the state and our own particular immediate needs.
And one of the things with documentaries is you can't tell the whole story, right? It's kind of,
Right.
captures a certain moment of time, and hopefully it's a catalyst for people to kind of dive deeper. Is there anything, that wasn't able to be made in the film that made it to the film that you would want to share, Paul? Or also what's happened since I know the film's been kind of updated as go along. Is there any updates since the filming was wrapped that we should be aware of?
Well, you always have to leave something out. And, West Virginia has a very long storied history that's been often overlooked, but it's had a significant bearing on the course of things in our nation's history. The labor rights and all the fights that happen here for that, and just so many different things that people from West Virginia have brought to the table, so to speak, for the nation and for the good of the nation. And so, but there's no way, as you said, there's no way in an hour and 20 minutes, or even a mini series, that you're going to tell everything that's here and everything that's sort of related to this. But I do feel like the film does a really good job of condensing that down into that hour and 20 or hour and 30 minutes.
There are whole chapters that we would have loved to have built out, specifically like on the history of West Virginia. In fact, the film was fatter with history that really told more of the kind of like shocking elements of what has gone on there. There were elements about the media that we really wanted to dig into more, that we just didn't have the time to do all these things. And then, frankly, there's a whole story about the court system there, and deeper stuff about the politicians that are in league with extracting from West Virginia without actually providing for their constituency. And some of that had to sit on the floor. And if we ever are lucky enough to get a whole bunch of money to continue pursuing, we'll let Paul keep working it out there, which, we have been doing. We've been seeding him a little money so that he can continue to tell some stories.
And, from from everybody's perspective here, what do you think the role that kind of film and media plays, I guess, in helping, advocate for, these important issues, whether they be environmental or, social, or, the labor rights that you mentioned, what do you think the role, why do you think film is such an important tool for that?
I think film has the ability, and we hope our film had the ability, to take what could be either broad assumptions or misconceptions and really distill them, humanize them. It's not just statistics on a paper, like this has West Virginia has one of the highest rates of cancer, for instance. There were meeting people, and people in our own intimate circle there who are fighting cancer, who have Black lung. People are living on, overlooking a fracking operation. It just, when you're on the ground with the people, when you're seeing their suffering, when you come back and visit over time to see how the destruction keeps compounding, I think film just is unique in that ability. Photography, also they're cousins, but I think film just gets to the heart more of getting to know a place and the people who live there, and not just pigeonholing them as, oh, these are, just hillbillies, or these are all red state people and they love coal.
Mhm. And beyond
And
that, I think we were able to, or what we were trying to do was weave together themes that maybe aren't necessarily thought of together in one situation. And we're trying to help ourselves express who we are. Julie and I consider ourselves to be very patriotic. Paul considers himself to be very patriotic, but patriotism and environmentalism has not been joined very much in conversation. For me, it's essential. I won't speak for Julie and Paul anymore, but
I agree.
No, we agree.
well,
We all agree on that.
I mean, I think it's a good thing. I mean, one of the things that we loved about being able to kind of share a film like yours, as part of the festival, is like, it kind of creates the conversation, about some of the issues that sometimes maybe you're kind of like, in your own bubble, right? Or you haven't got a chance to experience. And so we get the kind of chance to, travel and, meet people who are, dealing with this on the ground. And I guess, always kind of remind our audiences is that, we're kind of the grassroots street team for like the independent films that, we're lucky enough to kind of share themselves with the festival each year, And so for those of us that want to continue to kind of follow the story or take action, what are some of the things that we might be able to do?
I think one of the most important things that anyone from outside who wants to help is to help get screenings done throughout Central Appalachia, because this information just doesn't hit the turf here. It doesn't get in easily. And that is one of the reasons why we targeted very specifically Central Appalachia for whatever film festivals might exist. As you know, film festivals have had a trouble surviving, let alone thriving in this time period. So it's even worse in a place like West Virginia, where everything has fallen apart. People are working 2-3 jobs. It's our own. We don't want to be blind to our own issues in the United States because we can sugarcoat it for so long. These issues have been going on for a long time, but now they're coming to everybody's doorstep. It's just that West Virginia sort of hit that first, or was hit first.
And in terms of, just to expound upon what Babette is saying, some of the issues such as money in politics, influence of, big money working with candidates to fast track laws, new rulings coming out of the Supreme Court. So in that respect, with a decreasing ability for EPA or states to regulate, especially with regards to environment, that's coming to all of us. But especially in Appalachia, which if you watch the film, you'll hear one of our people, Jesse, saying West Virginia is ground zero for climate change. So we wanted to make sure that there were screenings there as well. And we do indeed have a fund set up to help enable those screenings on the ground and bring the film to different places there.
Maybe Paul has an idea too about what can be done.
Lots of ideas. But I think one of the important parts of what Babette was saying there, and also I'm going to get to Julie's as well in just a second, but is sharing the film here in Appalachia is really critical, because largely as a group of people, we've become that proverbial frog in the pot of boiling water. And so many people here have lived within the four walls of this reality for so long that they've become blind to it. And so the film is a really good way to wake up the people in our own communities to what's really happening here. I certainly had a similar thing growing up here in a coal camp, and with every man in my family being a coal miner. It just all seemed, quote, normal to me. But the opportunity to travel and leave the four walls of this state allowed me to come back and see it more freshly and to see it more realistically, I believe. And so the film being able to be seen here is really important. And one of the reasons why it's important ties into what Julie was saying, which is electoral politics. The nation as a whole has historically, I think, discounted the fact that West Virginia has representatives in the federal government, and we have 2 senators, and it just it's been like, oh well, it's just those 2 folks from West Virginia. What does it matter who West Virginia sends to the Senate? Well, I think in the last 4 years, what we saw very clearly was it mattered extremely who we sent to the Senate from West Virginia, because Joe Manchin single-handedly derailed so much of what we had hoped for in the Biden administration. And so helping the people of Appalachia understand the importance of who they send to the Senate and how those things impact the nation is a critical part of us moving forward, and how we move forward, how we solve the problems of this nation, and how we care for one another as Americans.
Well said. Well, thank you again for sharing the film, and really excited that you're part of the Green Film Festival of San Francisco. Have a great day, guys.
Thank
Hey,
you.
thank you so much.
So much. And thank your viewers for watching our movie.
Most definitely.